Welcome back to Storytime Boulevard, your destination to sleep. My name is Andrew, and as always, I'm honored to be your guide tonight. Tonight, we'll journey aboard a very special train, the train that whistled at the stars. In this story, we'll follow Arden, a thoughtful traveler, pulled towards something she doesn't quite understand. A silent owl with eyes full of knowing. A mysterious conductor who seems to appear just when needed. And a wise old woman with a cat marked by the moon. Their train ride will take us beyond time. But before we begin, let's take a few moments to prepare for rest. Wherever you are, allow yourself to relax. Let your body sink deeper into comfort. Whether you're curled beneath blankets, resting your head, or simply listening with your eyes closed. Now take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale gently through your mouth. One more time, breathe in and exhale. Feel your shoulders drop, your mind slow, your heart soften. Repeat quietly to yourself, I'm safe. I'm at peace. I'm ready to dream. Now, the stars are waiting. The train is just about to arrive. There is a train station that appears only after the last clock in town stops ticking. Tucked between the folds of time and hidden deeper still within the hush of the stars. This station doesn't belong to any map. It simply is. And only those meant to find it ever do. On this particular night, the air was crisp and the moon hung low, a pale, watchful eye in the sky. Pools of soft silver light shimmered across the platform's worn wood, and a distant melody, something between a lullaby and a hum, danced along the breeze. Arden arrived first. She stepped quietly into the moonlight, her boots brushing against fallen leaves. A tall woman with windswept, silver-streaked hair and a thoughtful gaze. Arden carried with her the weight of sleepless nights and dreams she couldn't quite remember. A journal was tucked beneath her arm, its pages weathered, filled with sketches of skies and half-finished thoughts. She looked up at the crooked wooden sign, platform 11 3/4. The numbers flickered like candlelight, always shifting, never still. Arden took a seat on the bench, exhaling slowly. She hadn't meant to come here. Not exactly. She had only followed the strange feeling that had tugged at her just after midnight. leading her through the sleepy town and into the dark. That's when she noticed him. An owl, perched atop the old iron lamppost. His feathers were a soft grey, dappled with white, and his amber eyes watched her intently, too intently for comfort. Arden tilted her head, unsettled but curious. The bird didn't blink, didn't hoot, didn't stir, just watched as though waiting for her to remember something she'd long forgotten. But she didn't know him, and yet something about his presence felt familiar, not in the way of memory, but in the way a song feels familiar the first time you hear it. Before she could wonder further, the soft tap of a cane echoed from the hill behind her. The old woman emerged, wrapped in a long coat stitched from faded maps and threadbare constellations. Her grey hair was braided with tiny bells that barely made a sound. A sleek cat trotted beside her, pale grey with a crescent moon on its forehead. "Evening," the old woman said, easing down beside Arden on the bench. Her voice had the warmth of bedtime stories and cinnamon tea. Arden nodded. "You're here for the train too?" The old woman smiled faintly. "Aren't we all, dear? Though most don't know they're waiting until it arrives." The owl turned its gaze from Arden to the old woman, then back again. Then, as if drawn by invisible threads, a soft whistle float through the air, not loud, not jarring, just a breath of sound that curled around them like smoke. It was coming. The whistle came again, a little clearer now, like the sigh of a world exhaling. It echoed across the hills, rippling through the night air, and the ground beneath the platform gave the softest tremble, like a heartbeat remembering its rhythm. Arden sat up straighter. The old woman simply smiled, as if she'd been expecting it all along. Beside her, the crescent-marked cat leapt lightly onto the bench, tail curling in anticipation. And then the fog rolled in. It came not from the sky or the hills, but from the very edges of the track, curling between the rails and spilling across the platform like clouds given permission to dream. In the midst of that glowing silver mist, the sound of wheels began to hum. Slow at first, then steadier. The lights came next, round, golden orbs gliding through the dark like fireflies, the size of lanterns. The train emerged. It wasn't like any train Arden had seen before. Its exterior shimmered, not with metal, but something softer, like the skin of a bubble or the surface of a pond beneath moonlight. The carriages looked aged and elegant, their doors etched with constellations and stories in languages Arden didn't recognize. Some windows were open, revealing empty seats trimmed in velvet, while others remained fogged with mystery. The owl tilted his head. The train sighed to a stop, its brakes releasing a slow exhale that whispered through the platform like a lullaby. A moment passed, then a click. The door to the first carriage opened, and out stepped the conductor. He was tall and slender, with a coat the color of twilight and a small lantern swinging from his hand. His cap was slightly too large, casting a soft shadow over his face, but his eyes gleamed, not brightly, but kindly, like candlelight in a distant window. "Welcome, travelers," he said, his voice warm and even. "We've been expecting you." Arden rose, slowly, uncertain whether she should speak. "You have?" The conductor nodded. "We always arrive when the stars say it's time." The old woman gave him a nod of recognition, as if they were old friends who had long since forgotten each other's names. Arden hesitated. "Where does the train go?" The conductor smiled, a slow, patient smile that didn't need to explain itself. "To the places you can only reach when you're not quite awake," he said. "Where memories drift and the soul wanders freely." He turned slightly and extended a hand toward the owl, who still sat perched atop the lamppost. The owl blinked, then spread its wings and glided soundlessly down, landing on the platform beside Arden. She stepped back instinctively, surprised again by how close he dared to be. "He travels with you," the conductor said, more a statement than a question. Arden frowned. "I don't know him." The conductor looked at her gently. "Perhaps not yet." With that, he stepped aside, gesturing to the open door of the first carriage. "Board when you're ready," he said. "We leave when the moon slips behind the veil." And then he was gone, walking down the length of the train, checking windows, tapping softly on each door like he was waking dreams from their slumber. Arden turned to the old woman. "What is this?" The old woman smiled softly. "A journey. One you've needed for a long time." The owl looked up at her again, and for reasons she couldn't name, Arden stepped forward. The moment Arden stepped aboard, the air changed. It smelled faintly of old paper and peppermint, and something else. Something like the breeze just before a storm, the kind that clears your thoughts and leaves everything still. The floor beneath her boots didn't feel like metal, but more like polished wood, soft and worn smooth by the soles of countless other passengers who had walked this same path in their dreams. The owl followed silently, gliding behind her with barely a sound. Arden glanced over her shoulder. He perched near the door and stayed there, watching but not intruding. Inside, the first carriage was dimly lit with hanging lanterns shaped like stars. They swayed gently as the train began to move, their golden glow flickering like candlelight on water. Velvet seats lined each side of the carriage, and the windows, oh, the windows, weren't like any windows Arden had ever seen. They shimmered. Some showed rolling meadows lit by moonlight. Others revealed deep oceans, castles of coral, or distant mountaintops dusted with silver snow. And one, the one nearest Arden, showed her own face, not as she was now, but as she had been once, laughing under a summer sky with someone she hadn't thought about in years. She stared, then blinked, and the image was gone. The train swayed gently, not hurried, not rushed. Outside the windows, stars drifted past like they were snowflakes instead of suns. The conductor appeared again, quietly, as if he'd stepped out of the folds of shadow. "This is the window carriage," he said. "It shows what your heart remembers or forgets when you're awake." Arden looked at him. "Why?" "So you don't lose your way," he said, as if that explained everything. She moved to another window. This one showed a door, wooden, painted blue, with a bell hanging from a nail. She didn't recognize it, but her chest tightened all the same. The owl suddenly fluttered down beside her, wings tucking close. He peered at the same window and tilted his head, as though seeing something Arden could not. "Do you know what that is?" she asked him quietly. The owl blinked once, then hopped to the next seat. The conductor, standing just behind her, spoke again. "This train doesn't just travel through space. It travels through memory, and maybe something deeper than that." Arden turned toward him. "Is that where we're going?" The conductor's eyes twinkled beneath the shadow of his cap. "We're going to the places you've left behind, and the ones waiting for you still." A soft bell chimed above the door, a gentle ding-ding like wind through a crystal, and the train began to slow. Arden looked up, heart fluttering. "Are we stopping?" "Yes," the conductor said, "the first stop." He didn't elaborate. Instead, he opened the door at the end of the carriage and stepped through. The owl took flight again, gliding past Arden and disappearing through the same door. Alone for a moment, Arden lingered by the window that had shown her the blue door. It was empty now, just mist beyond the glass. She placed her hand against the cool pane and whispered, "I don't know what I'm looking for." Somewhere deep in the train, a whistle blew once more. Outside, the stars leaned closer. The door at the end of the carriage creaked open, and a cool wind slipped in, not harsh, but curious, like fingers brushing gently against skin to see if you're real. Arden followed it. As she stepped off the train, the scent of lavender and earth greeted her, laced with something faintly metallic, like old keys or coins rubbed smooth by time. The owl was already there, perched atop a signpost that simply read, "The Station of Forgotten Things." Beyond the platform was a landscape, both eerie and familiar. Long grasses swayed without wind. Trees towered high, their leaves glittering silver. And everywhere Arden looked, she saw objects. Scattered across the fields were umbrellas, gloves without pairs, single shoes, toy trains, notebooks, buttons, music boxes, a gentle sea of misplaced things. Some items were small and strange. Others looked important, and all of them hummed with a quiet kind of loneliness. Arden took a cautious step forward. The air was cool, but not cold, like dusk after a long summer day. The old woman stepped off the train behind her, her cane tapping softly on the stone platform. "I've been here before," she said. Arden turned. "Where is this place, really?" The old woman gave a small smile. "It's where the things you've forgotten go. Not just objects, moments, feelings, even promises." Arden looked around. A child's music box slowly turned on its own, playing a lullaby she almost recognized. She moved toward it, but stopped as a small porcelain bird caught her eye, resting gently in the grass. Her chest ached. "I don't remember this," she whispered. "You're not supposed to yet," said the conductor, appearing beside her without sound. "But something here belongs to you." Arden looked to the owl. He was staring at a worn satchel near a crooked tree. He gave a soft rustle of his wings and looked back at her. "What do I do?" she asked. The conductor gestured with a nod. "Walk. Feel. Listen. The things that once mattered have a way of finding their way back, if you let them." Arden stepped into the field. Her boots pressed into the soft grass. She walked slowly past a cracked teacup, a set of paintbrushes, a little bell tied with ribbon. Some items stirred emotions. Others meant nothing at all, until she saw it. A small journal, faded blue, tied shut with a ribbon the color of dusk. Her fingers tingled as she reached for it. The moment she touched it, the world went still. She remembered something. Sitting on a balcony at age 13, writing in that very journal under a sky full of stars. She'd written letters to someone she hadn't met yet, someone she hoped would one day understand her. A tear slipped down her cheek. The owl hooted softly. Not loud, just enough for her to know he saw. The conductor stepped forward. "You've remembered something that matters." Arden nodded, barely able to speak. The wind shifted gently, and a bell rang again from the platform. "It's time," the conductor said. "The train won't wait forever." Arden held the journal tightly and turned back toward the carriage. The old woman was already aboard, her cat curled in her lap. The owl flew beside her as she walked. Back on the train, the door closed behind her with a soft click. The windows shimmered again, and the train pulled forward into the mist. Behind them, the station of forgotten things faded like a dream upon waking. The train moved in silence now, not the silence of absence, but of reverence, the hush that falls when something sacred is near. The lanterns in the carriage flickered lower, casting soft pools of golden light that swayed gently with the motion of the train. Outside, the stars no longer drifted. They stood still, like they were watching. Arden sat alone. The blue journal lay open on her lap. Inside were pages she didn't remember writing, and yet the handwriting was hers. One page read, "When I was small, I whispered to the stars, hoping they'd whisper back. I didn't know then they were already listening." She ran her fingers over the ink. Some words were smudged, as if written through tears or rain, or both. The owl sat across from her now, quiet and still. His amber eyes never left her, but not in a threatening way, more like waiting. The conductor entered the carriage again. This time he held something new, a small envelope sealed with wax in the shape of a star. He offered it to Arden. "We've arrived at the realm between names. Only passengers with a letter may disembark." Arden looked at him, surprised. "What does that mean?" "It's a place where things are known before they are named, where feelings live before we give them words. Some visit it in dreams and wake up changed, though they never know why." Arden took the envelope. It was warm in her hands, pulsing faintly, like it had a heartbeat of its own. The conductor opened the carriage door. A gentle mist rolled in. Beyond it, there was no station, no platform, only a path made of soft violet light, leading into a landscape that shimmered and shifted. Sometimes a forest, sometimes a vast sea, sometimes a hallway of mirrors that didn't reflect. The owl flew out without hesitation, Arden followed. The air in the realm between names was thick with feeling. She could sense thoughts that didn't belong to her, memories with no images, emotions with no cause. She walked slowly, the path beneath her feet glowing with each step. There were voices, not spoken aloud, but felt, like echoes inside her own chest. I never got to say goodbye. She would have loved that song if I had just said what I meant. The path led to a quiet pool of water. Still and glass-like, it reflected no sky, only stars. The owl landed at its edge and stared into it. Arden stood beside him. In the water, she didn't see her reflection. She saw a moment, a childhood moment. Her sitting alone in her room, holding a pillow close, tears in her eyes. A memory she'd long buried. She watched as a younger version of herself whispered something through the open window, something she didn't even remember saying. "Please, someone find me." A soft hoot came from beside her. Arden turned to the owl, eyes wide. "Was it you?" she asked, her voice barely a breath. The owl blinked once, then, slowly, opened his wings wide. For a brief second, starlight spilled from between his feathers. Then, without warning, the water shimmered and the path behind them lit up. The conductor's voice called out from somewhere unseen. "Time is shifting. The train must move on." Arden looked once more at the water, then at the owl. "I still don't understand," she whispered. And yet, something inside her had softened, as if a small part of her had been seen and understood long before she had words for it. The owl flew back toward the train, and this time Arden didn't follow behind. She walked beside him. The train had changed. Arden noticed it the moment she stepped back on board. The velvet seats were now deep navy instead of crimson. The lanterns, once golden, flickered with a soft bluish glow, like moonlight caught in a jar. A hush blanketed the carriage. Not emptiness, but expectancy, like the quiet before a curtain rises. She walked slowly, her fingers brushing the wall, steadying herself as the train swayed. The owl was close behind her now, not perched or hovering, but walking, each talon barely making a sound on the polished floor. The conductor waited further down. He stood beside a narrow door Arden hadn't noticed before, painted a pale lavender grey. It had no handle, only a keyhole in the shape of a crescent moon. "Where are we now?" she asked. The conductor smiled, his voice quiet as a lullaby. "This is the sleeper's cabin." "What's in there?" He regarded her gently. "The truth." Arden frowned. "The truth about what?" why you're really here. The owl hooted, softly, almost like agreement. The conductor handed her a key, silver and smooth, cool to the touch. She held it in her palm and turned toward the door, her breath caught. A quiet memory tugged at her, a dream she'd had once as a child, of a silver key she found in a garden under moonlight. She hadn't remembered it until now. She slid the key into the lock. The door gave a soft click and swung open. Inside, the sleeper's cabin was small and warm, lit by a single candle on a bedside table. A bed, narrow and neatly made, sat in the center of the room. Across from it was a mirror, full length, with a frame made of driftwood and star shells. But what stopped Arden wasn't the furniture. It was herself, lying in the bed, asleep, not metaphorically, not symbolically. She was there, the same face, same silver-streaked hair, same small scar on her wrist, resting peacefully, eyes closed, hands folded over her chest. Arden's knees weakened. She grabbed the doorframe. What is this?" she whispered. The conductor didn't enter. He remained just outside, his silhouette barely lit. This is where the waking part of you rests, where your body sleeps, while your spirit remembers. She stepped inside, trembling. The owl followed and perched at the end of the bed, gazing at the sleeping version of her with quiet reverence. "This isn't a train at all, is it?" Arden said slowly. "It's a passage." The conductor nodded. "Of sorts." Arden turned to him. "And where does it end?" He paused, then answered softly. "That depends on what you're ready to let go of." She looked at her sleeping self again. A tear slid down her cheek, not from fear, but from recognition. She didn't feel afraid. She felt whole. The conductor spoke once more. "We are nearing the final stop. When you wake, you may not remember every detail, but something will have changed. You'll see the stars a little differently. You'll breathe a little slower. You'll know a little more about what your soul has been trying to tell you." Arden stepped to the side of the bed and placed her hand over her sleeping self's. It was warm. The owl blinked once, then closed his eyes. The candle flickered, and for a moment, Arden thought she heard her own voice, her sleeping self, whisper, "Thank you for coming back to me." The train moved slower now, not sluggish, but graceful, like it knew this part of the journey was meant to be savoured. Outside, the stars had drawn closer, so close in fact that Arden could see their shapes, not just pinpricks of light, but great swirling tapestries of memory and light, and something far older than time. She stood beside the owl in the final carriage, the one with no seats, only windows, round and wide, like observatory domes. The old woman had fallen asleep 2 cars back, the crescent-marked cat curled at her feet, purring softly in time with the rhythm of the rails. The conductor joined Arden one last time. "We're here," he said. Arden didn't see a platform. There were no stations, no mist, no signs. But the train stopped. Outside the window was a wide open field bathed in silver blue moonlight. At its center, a single tree, enormous, ancient, its branches stretched toward the sky, like arms reaching for a lullaby. Dozens, maybe hundreds of lanterns hung from its limbs, glowing softly like suspended wishes. Arden stepped off the train for the final time. The grass beneath her feet felt impossibly soft, like walking on woven memory. The owl flew to the tree and landed on a low branch, watching her as if he'd been waiting for this moment all along. As she approached the tree, the wind picked up slightly, though it didn't disturb the lanterns. Instead, they swayed gently, each one chiming faintly, as if greeting her by name. "This," said the conductor, appearing beside her again, "is the place where stars remember you." Arden's voice caught in her throat. "What does that mean?" He gestured toward the tree. "For every soul that has wandered, doubted, or forgotten who they are, this place keeps a light. Not to guide you home, but to remind you you've never truly left it." Arden stepped beneath the tree's great canopy. One lantern glowed a little brighter than the rest. She reached up and gently touched it. The light within pulsed, once, then twice, and opened like a flower. Inside, she saw herself, not in the past, not in sleep, but as she was becoming, soft, steady, unafraid, walking through the world with wonder again, laughing more, trusting the quiet, letting go. The lantern dimmed, then faded back to a soft glow. The owl let out one final, peaceful hoot. Arden turned to him. "You've been with me all this time," she said, "even before I saw you." The owl blinked slowly, then opened his wings wide, feathers catching the starlight, and flew upward into the tree, where he vanished into the sky above, becoming one more glimmering light among the many. The conductor stepped forward and held out his hand. "Ready to return?" Arden looked once more at the lanterns, then toward the stars, and nodded. Somewhere, in a quiet room, A woman stirred in her sleep. The breeze through the window was cool. The night was still. A soft hoot echoed far off in the distance. Arden opened her eyes. Not all at once, slowly, like petals in morning light. She didn't remember everything. Not every stop, not every word, but she felt different, lighter, like something she had lost had gently returned to her, something ancient and beautiful and softly glowing from within. And though she could not name it, she felt the stars were closer now. From all of us here at Storytime Boulevard, thank you for traveling with us tonight. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be kind, and may you always feel the quiet light of the stars, remembering you. Good night, dreamer.